The Girl in Chains. Elira was just 19 years old when the aliens took her. She was not a soldier, not a spy, not even a trained diplomat. She was just a girl working on a peaceful trade ship. Her job was to carry messages between humans and their new alien allies. But that day, her ship never made it to the station. The alien pirates came out of nowhere. Their black needle-shaped ship surrounded the human vessel. No warning, no chance to escape. The crew fought bravely, but they were outgunned. Elira watched her friends fall. She was the only one taken alive. The pirates were not ordinary criminals. They were from a cruel species called the Zarkari. Tall, four-armed, with skin like stone and no mercy in their eyes. They hated humans. They saw them as weak, soft, and emotional. And Elira, a small and quiet girl, looked like the easiest target. They dragged her to a hidden prison colony on a dead moon. No stars were visible in the sky. The air was always cold. Inside the prison, she was chained to a wall. Heavy metal, cuffs around her wrists and ankles. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised, but her spirit, still unbroken. They tortured her every day. They didn't ask questions. They just hurt her. Sometimes with tools, sometimes with poison, sometimes with creatures from their homeworld. The guards took turns trying to break her. They wanted her to scream, to cry, to beg. But Elira didn't give them that satisfaction. She stayed silent. No matter how much pain they gave her, no matter how long they left her in the cold, dark cell. Only once did she speak, and she said the same thing every time. "They're coming." At first the guards were confused. "Who's coming?" one asked, laughing. "Your human friends? You think your people care?" Elira didn't answer. Later they laughed even more. "She's broken," they said. "She's seeing ghosts." But one of the guards, a younger Zarkari named Thurn, wasn't laughing. He watched Elira carefully. Every day she grew weaker, but her eyes still burned with fire. That scared him. He asked his commander, "What if she's telling the truth?" The commander growled, "Earth won't send anyone. They are cowards. They talk peace. They hide behind rules." But Thurn wasn't so sure, because something strange happened the day after they took Elira. One of their surveillance satellites went offline, then another. Then the outer watch post stopped reporting. They said it was technical failure, but Thurn had seen the last footage, a flash of light from space. A shadow in the clouds. Something had entered orbit. Back in her cell, Elira smiled slightly. Her face was pale. Her lips were dry. Her body hurt everywhere. But in her heart, she knew something. She had triggered Protocol Revenant. When a human citizen is taken and harmed beyond certain limits, Earth doesn't wait. Earth doesn't warn. It acts. Far above the dead moon, a satellite recorded Elira's condition. Her pain, her blood, her words. The signal traveled silently through space, faster than light, straight to Earth's black site, command. Deep under the surface of Antarctica, in a place no one talks about, a red light began to blink. An AI system read the data. Elira's file appeared. Status: civilian. Priority: red. Another signal was sent. 3 secure pods unlocked. Names appeared: Rays, heavy assault; NYLA, close combat; Vex, tech and infiltration. They were not normal humans. They were revenants. Earth's secret answer to galactic cruelty, created in silence, trained in hell, deployed only when Earth wanted to send a message. Elira whispered again, barely a sound. "They're coming." Her chains rattled as she leaned against the wall. Blood dripped from her fingers. Outside, her cell thunder rolled across the skyless moon. The Zarkari guards looked up. One of them asked, "What was that?" No one answered, because it wasn't thunder. It was entry fire. 3 burning stars had just entered the moon's atmosphere, and each one carried a monster. Earth had trained for one reason only: to punish those who hurt their own. The Earth did not shout. It did not warn. It simply moved. In the cold silence under Antarctica's ice, deep inside an invisible fortress known only to a few, 3 black doors opened for the first time in years. Behind them stood cryopods marked with a red human handprint and the number, Project Revenant. Inside each pod lay a human. No, more than human. Not born. Rebuilt. The first to awaken was Ray's. His skin was marked with scars from past battles. His muscles moved like machines. He opened his eyes and the room temperature rose 5 degrees. A file flashed in red letters on his retinal display. Target: Zarkari Prison Colony. Objective: Elira. Status: tortured. His jaw tightened. Next was Nyla. She didn't speak. She had no need. Her body was slim, flexible, wired with reflex-enhancing tech that made her faster than any known creature. She saw Elira's footage in a blink, and then she closed her eyes and remembered her own sister, long ago taken and never returned. Finally came Vex, the mind of the team. His brain was a living computer, connected to Earth's AI web even while in sleep. When he read the report, he didn't blink. He simply said, "Time to burn a world." They suited up in silence, no speeches, no mission briefing. The footage of Elira screaming in silence was all they needed. And Earth didn't send these three to bring her home. Earth sent them to send a message. The ship that carried them was no normal spacecraft. It was a launch capsule disguised as a comet, silent, fast, and very, very deadly. They didn't fly through space. They fell. Back on the Zarkari moon, the guards laughed and drank spiced blood. One showed his friend a recording of Elira crying, in her sleep. "Such fragile things," he said. "She still thinks someone will come." His friend chuckled. Outside, the moonscape was quiet, nothing unusual. Until the sky split. Without sound, without warning, 3 white-hot lights pierced the clouds and slammed into the surface. Each one hit with the force of a meteor. Dust rose like waves. The ground trembled. Sirens screamed. The guards ran to their stations. Commanders yelled over the radios. What was that? Did the humans launch an attack ship? No, nothing on the sensors. In a control room deep inside the prison, a technician replayed the satellite feed. He watched the moment the first pod entered the sky. It came in without a heat signature, without a radio ping, without any sign of life. He zoomed in on the object. For one frame, just one, he saw it. A human face behind the glass, and then the feed cut to static. Ray's stood in a crater, smoke curling around him. His boots burned into the stone ground. Without saying a word, he pulled a massive rifle from his back and began walking toward the prison. Nyla landed on the opposite side. Her drop shattered a Zarkari patrol truck. She emerged from the wreckage. Before the flames even finished spreading, she moved like wind, a blur, a ghost. And behind the central tower, Vex crawled out of a cracked pod and opened a wrist console. He spoke to the AI in a calm voice. "Override planetary net. Shut down power. Scramble comms. Lock all gates." The system obeyed. Inside the prison walls, lights flickered, then died. Doors slammed shut. The guards tried to call for help, but their signals never left the moon. Darkness fell, and from the shadows they came. Elira was still chained when the power went out. She looked up slowly. The hallway outside her cell was now black, but in the dark, she heard it. Footsteps. Not the heavy boots of the Zarkari. These were softer, precise, and getting closer. The lock on her door melted. A blast of heat, then metal clattered to the floor. Elira squinted as the door creaked open. A silhouette stood there. Not alien. Human. Tall. Muscular. With eyes that glowed faint red in the dark. Rays. He looked at her, not with pity but with respect. "Elira," he said. She nodded, voice rough from silence. "You came." Rays tossed her a cloak. "We never forgot you." She wrapped it around herself. Behind Rays, Nyla appeared. She touched Elira's chains, and with a sharp twist, they broke. Vex's voice came over their comms. Guards closing. In 17 units. They have no idea who they're fighting. Reyes cracked his knuckles. Then let's introduce ourselves. Far above, on Earth, a final report was sealed and transmitted to world leaders. The sky above the prison colony was still glowing red. Smoke poured from the craters where the super soldiers had landed. The moon's surface, once dry and silent, was now a battlefield waiting to ignite. Inside the main tower, alarms screamed. The Zarkari guards shouted over each other. The command center was in chaos. They came from nowhere. No energy readings, no ship signatures. The commander, a thick-skinned brute named Grax, slammed his fist on the control panel. There, ghosts. Ghosts don't bleed. Make them bleed. But even as he roared, one of his monitors flickered to life. It showed a blurry figure moving through the lower corridor. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. Then another camera caught movement, a shadow dropping from the ceiling, snapping a guard's neck and vanishing again. Too fast, the EI, Tech whispered. Too late, said Grax. Reyes didn't slow down. His heavy boots left deep prints in the stone floor. His armor absorbed energy blasts like dust. Every time a Zarkari stepped into the hallway, they went down in one shot. His gun, a human prototype that didn't need reloading, hummed with quiet rage. Behind him, Elira followed, still wrapped in the black cloak. She had no weapon, but she didn't need one yet. Her eyes were sharp, focused. She was watching, learning, and burning inside. The pain hadn't left her body, but something new had awakened in her. Fury. Nyla moved separately, slicing through the northern wing. She was barely a blur, appearing, only long enough to drop an enemy, then disappearing again. Her blades hummed as they cut through armor like paper. One Zarkari tried to run. He didn't even get 2 steps before she was behind him, whispering in his ear. For Elira. Then, silence. Vex stayed in the shadows, fingers dancing over his wrist device. His job wasn't to fight. It was to trap, to isolate, to dismantle the prison from the inside out. He locked down escape hatches, crashed their weapon systems, blinded their sensors. To the Zarkari, the moon had become a maze of death. To Vex, it was a game board. And he was winning. Meanwhile, Reyes kicked open a thick door at the base of the prison tower. Behind it were rows of cages, and inside those cages, more humans, men, women, even 2 teenagers. Some were injured, others unconscious. All of them were thin, starving, and chained like animals. Elira's breath caught in her throat. They lied, she whispered. They said I was the only one. Reyes' voice was quiet. They always lie. She stepped forward, gripping the cage bars. We have to free them, all of them. He nodded. That's why we're here. Vex's voice came through the comms. South sector cleared. Guards down. But we have a problem. Big one. Reyes answered. What is it? There was a pause. Then Vex said, they've activated an override, calling a war cruiser from orbit. ETA, 15 minutes. Grax, the Zarkari commander, was shouting into a crystal communicator. Get me the flagship, we need air support now. Send the war cruiser, a voice answered from the other side. Negative. Earth has ships in the system. If we engage, it means war. Grax growled. Then send the message. Earth started this, now we finish it. Back in the prison, Elira helped unchain the other humans. Her fingers were still weak, her hands shaking, but she kept moving. One girl, maybe 15, looked at her with wide eyes. Are you one of them? She asked. The ghosts? Elira shook her head. No, I was a prisoner like you. The girl frowned. But they follow you. Elira paused. No, she said slowly. They fight for all of us. Nyla rejoined them in the hallway. Her armor was stained, her expression calm. Vex says reinforcements are coming, she told Reyes. Big ones. Reyes looked at Elira. You ready to run? Elira looked at the freed prisoners, at the scared faces, at the girl holding her hand. No, she said. I'm ready to fight. Suddenly, the ceiling shook. Dust rained down. A new alarm sounded. Deeper, angrier. The ground lit up from above. The Zarkari warcruiser had entered the moon's atmosphere. Its massive shape blocked out the stars. Its weapons glowed like fire. Vex's voice came over the comms again. I can delay them. Maybe 10 minutes max. After that, they level the site. Reyes looked at his team, then at Elira. She needs a weapon, he said. Nyla smiled faintly and tossed Elira a compact plasma gun. Time to earn your stripes. Elira caught it, her grip steady. And for the first time since she was taken, she smiled. The prison was shaking. The ground groaned with the weight of the incoming war cruiser. But deep beneath the surface, far below the known cells and security cameras, a hidden tunnel began to unlock, its walls glowing with blue lines that hadn't lit up in years. Elira didn't know it yet, but her journey wasn't over. It was about to go deeper. While Reyes and Nyla guided the freed prisoners toward the extraction point, Vex remained behind in the tower's server room. His hands danced over an ancient alien console, trying to break into systems older than the prison itself. Then, he found it. Buried under layers of digital decay, he found a file called Facility 0 Legacy Protocol. He stared for a moment. He whispered, "This wasn't just a prison, this was a lab." Vex called Reyes on the comms. "Change of plan. You need to see this." Reyes replied, "We don't have time." "That cruiser—" "Forget the cruiser," Vex interrupted. "There's something beneath this place. It's why they took Elira. It's why they're hiding humans here." There was a long silence. Then Reyes replied, "Send coordinates." Elira followed Reyes and Nyla as they moved through a sealed tunnel, lit only by flickering red emergency lights. Her hand held the plasma pistol tight, her jaw clenched. Her body still ached, but she didn't limp. She didn't want to show weakness. She didn't want to be a victim anymore. The tunnel ended in a steel door, covered in Zarkari warnings. Reyes placed a palm on the panel. Nothing happened. Then Elira stepped forward. The door scanned her face. It hissed open. The room inside was huge and horrifying. Tanks filled the walls, each one glowing green. Inside them floated bodies. Not all were human, some were mixed, part alien, part human. Others had glowing eyes, enlarged limbs, or strange implants in their skulls. Elira felt her stomach twist. "What is this place?" she whispered. Vex appeared through a side hallway, his face pale. "They weren't just torturing you. They were testing you." He pointed at one of the tanks. Inside floated a woman that looked almost like Elira. Same face, same hair. But something was off. Her skin had a strange shimmer. Her eyes were fully black. "She's a clone," Vex said. "Or an attempt." Elira stepped back, her heart pounding. "Why?" "They were trying to create the perfect hybrid," Vex answered. "They think humans are adaptable, survivors, but they couldn't replicate what makes us human. So they used me," Elira whispered. Vex nodded. "They used your DNA, your pain, your reactions." Reyes slammed his fist into one of the tanks, cracking the glass. "These things," he growled. "This is a war crime." Suddenly the alarms changed. Not red, now blue. Vex's eyes widened. They activated the failsafe. "They're going to destroy the lab." Nyla touched her earpiece. "They're dropping bombs. We've got maybe 6 minutes." Reyes turned to Elira. "We have to go." But Elira didn't move. She stared at the tanks, at the failed copies of herself, the other humans in cages, the files listing their experiments. "Not yet," she said quietly. She walked to a control panel. "What are you doing?" Vex asked. "I'm setting them free," Elira replied. "All of them." She pressed a button. All the tank locks hissed. The cloning chambers and test tubes cracked open. Green liquid spilled across the floor. Some of the beings inside gasped for breath. Others didn't move at all. One young human girl, barely 12, fell from a stasis pod, coughing. Elira caught her. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now." Above ground, the war cruiser's weapons powered up, massive cannons pointed at the prison. Targets locked, a robotic voice said. The alien commander sneered. Burn it all. Vex pulled up the exit map. We need to go. Now. They grabbed as many survivors as they could carry. Illyra held the child's hand tight. Reyes picked up a boy with cybernetic limbs. Nyla supported an unconscious woman. Together, they ran. Corridors collapsed behind them. Flames chased their heels. The ground quaked as the war cruiser unleashed its first blast, but the revenants were already gone. Vex had found an emergency tunnel, leading to the surface. They emerged on a rocky slope, far from the main prison. Above them, fire rained down. The prison exploded in a massive blue burst, wiping away everything. The lab, the cells, the secrets doggone. Illyra stood on the ridge, breathing hard. Her hair was full of ash. Her arms shook from carrying the girl. But her eyes were focused. Reyes looked at her. You made the call to stay behind. You saved more than we planned. Illyra looked at the survivors they had rescued. Dozens of lives. She said, They took everything from us, but we gave it back to each other. Nyla stepped beside her. You're not just a survivor now, she said. You're one of us. The fires still burned behind them, but the war wasn't over. As the smoke from the destroyed prison lab filled the sky, deep in another wing of the colony, unknown to even some guards, the main population block still held hundreds of prisoners. Not just humans, other species too. Weak, starved, forgotten. And now word was spreading. The humans are fighting back. Earth sent warriors. The chains are breaking. Inside cell block E, a tall alien with purple skin named Kathuk whispered through the bars to a human beside him. They destroyed the labs. They say one girl led them. The human, a former engineer named Mason, didn't smile, but his eyes lit up. I told them Earth would come. Kathuk looked down the corridor. The guards were nervous now. Their patrols doubled, their weapons ready. The walls trembled from the war cruiser's bombardment, but fear had already slipped through the cracks. Not fear of weapons, but of hope. And hope was dangerous. In a small command post near Block E, a junior Zarkari officer screamed into his radio. We can't hold them. The prisoners are organizing, they're chanting. His commander snarled back, Kill a few, make the others silent. But it was too late for silence. Illyra, still bruised and sore, led the team back toward the central prison sector. Her grip tightened around the plasma pistol as they reached a sealed gate. She looked at Reyes. They're still in there. Vex checked his scanner. Thermal reads show at least 400 bodies behind this wall. Most are alive. Some very weak. Nyla said, We open this gate, it's not a rescue anymore. Reyes nodded slowly. It's a riot. Illyra stepped forward. No, she said. It's a revolution. The team breached the gate. The explosion shook the entire structure. As smoke cleared, the prisoners stared in shock. A human girl stepped through the dust, plasma weapon in hand, eyes blazing with purpose. Behind her were the revenants, silent, deadly, unshaken. Mason pushed forward to the bars. You're Illyra. We saw the footage. We saw what they did to you. Illyra nodded. And now we do something back. Kathuk raised his voice. But we have no weapons. Illyra tossed him one of the stolen shock batons. Now you do. In minutes, the entire prison erupted. Cells opened. Guards panicked. The control systems failed, thanks to Vex's override. Sirens wailed, but no one was listening anymore. Kathuk led a group of ex-soldiers to overtake the eastern corridor. Mason rigged door locks to trap guards inside their own bunkers. One alien girl used her broken chains as whips, a massive insectoid. Creature shattered an entire gate with a single charge. The prisoners had nothing to lose. And when people have nothing to lose, they become unstoppable. On the upper floors, the Zarkari commander watched the prison collapse into chaos. They've infected the others, he hissed. Their courage is spreading. He turned to his officer. "Prepare the final gas release. If we can't control them, we'll kill them all." But the officer hesitated. "Sir, some of them are children." The commander roared and grabbed the officer by the neck. "They're animals. We bred them like cattle." He slammed his fist onto the console. Too late. The console sparked. A red screen flashed. "System override." Access denied. Vex's voice echoed from the room's speakers. "Try that again and I'll vent your lungs into space." The commander froze. Then the floor under him exploded. Rays burst in like a hammer through steel. The revenants had arrived. Meanwhile, Elira stood atop a guard tower in the middle of the prison yard. Fires lit the sky. Hundreds of prisoners filled the open yard below, armed with anything they could find: batons, chains, pipes, stolen weapons. She raised her voice. "I was alone in a dark room. I thought no one was coming, but Earth sent these warriors for me. Now they're here for all of us." The prisoners listened. "They said we were weak," Elira shouted, "that we were broken, but look around. We are many. We are alive. And we are done being silent," the crowd roared. Behind her, Vex triggered the old loudspeaker system. Elira's voice echoed across the moon. "To all cells, rise." The riot became a revolution. Prisoners stormed the armories. Guards dropped their weapons and fled. Even the war cruiser above hesitated to fire now, afraid it might kill their own commanders below. Later that night, as the fires died down and the prisoners took control, Elira walked through the open gates of the colony. She was no longer a prisoner. She was no longer afraid. And behind her, hundreds followed. Not just survivors. A new army. The prison moon was falling apart. Smoke rose from the broken towers. Fires burned across the ruined courtyards. Prisoners, once starved and chained, now patrolled with stolen rifles and alien tech. They had taken back the night, but above them, death was waiting. The Zarkari war cruiser, 5 times the size of the colony, hovered like a dark god in the sky. Its engines hummed low and its cannons glowed brighter with every second. Inside the human base camp, Reyes looked up and spoke softly. "They're charging their main weapon." Vex confirmed it through his hacked feed. Final countdown initiated. Impact in 6 minutes. We're in the blast zone. The survivors had won the battle inside, but now the sky itself was ready to destroy them. Elira stood at the center of the courtyard. Around her were hundreds of freed prisoners, young and old, from different worlds. Some were still injured, some carried makeshift stretchers, but no one wanted to leave. Not without a plan, she turned to Reyes, her voice calm but firm. "How many shuttles do we have?" "Only 3. Each holds 20, he said. "We can't evacuate everyone." Elira clenched her fists. "Then we stop the cruiser." Reyes looked at her, surprised. "We're soldiers, not gods." "No," she said. "You're revenants. You're Earth's answer to monsters like them." She walked to the edge of the old tower ruins and pointed at the sky. "They tortured me to break me. But I'm still standing. If that war cruiser survives, today they'll keep doing it to others. So we either run," she looked around at the crowd, "or we rise." Vex interrupted. "There's one chance." Everyone turned to him. He tapped his wrist console and projected a map in the air. "There's a forgotten launch rail, an old planetary defense cannon built into the cliffs. Predates the prison." Reyes frowned. "That thing's centuries old." "Still works," Vex said, "but only manually. Someone needs to get inside and override the fire control." Nyla stepped forward. "You want us to shoot the war cruiser out of orbit with a cannon made of rust?" Vex nodded. "Better than waiting to be vaporized." Elira didn't hesitate. "Let's move." The team sprinted through back tunnels, guiding a small group of skilled fighters with them. Elira, Reyes, Nyla, and Vex led the charge. Behind them, a group of former prisoners, mechanics, soldiers, survivors carried supplies. As they reached the cliffside entrance, the roar from the war cruiser grew louder. Its shadow blanketed the moon. The countdown hit 3 minutes. Inside the ancient cannon complex, dust covered everything. Vines crawled through the walls. Machines flickered weakly, powered by forgotten reactors. Elira coughed as the stale air burnt her lungs. Vex found the control panel and plugged in his interface. "This thing wasn't made for humans," he muttered. "Give me 60 seconds. Reyes and Nyla spread out, guarding the room. The rest worked quickly, realigning the barrel, setting the elevation, reactivating power lines. Time was slipping. Above, the war cruiser finished charging. From its underbelly, a glowing red orb began to form. Inside the bridge, the Zarkari admiral gave the final order. "Target the heart of the prison. Burn them. All of them." Back in the cannon chamber, sparks flew. Vex cursed his systems overloaded. "I need a manual." "Override, there's no remote trigger." "I'll go," Elira said. "No," Reyes growled. "You're not trained." She looked him dead in the eye. "I'm not a prisoner anymore. I'm part of this fight." She climbed the narrow ladder toward the main firing core. Heat poured from the coils. The room vibrated as if the ancient weapon remembered its purpose. Vex shouted from below, "All systems online. Just press the core ignition, then run." Elira reached the top. There was no button, only a lever, big, rusted, and heavy. She took a breath and pulled. The cannon screamed to life. A blue-white beam erupted from the cliffside, slicing the sky, like a sword of justice. The war cruiser didn't even have time to dodge. The beam struck its engine core. Silence. Then, boom. The ship cracked in half. A shockwave ripped through the clouds. Debris fell like metal rain. Inside the firing chamber, the systems exploded, the heat surged. Flames burst from the walls. Elira was thrown back by the blast, crashing into the railing. Smoke filled her lungs. Her vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. Then strong arms grabbed her. It was Reyes. "You're insane," he muttered, lifting her over his shoulder. She coughed a weak laugh. "Told you, I'm part of this fight." Outside, the prisoners watched the war cruiser fall from the sky like a dying star. They didn't cheer at first. They just stared in stunned silence. Then one voice whispered, "She did it." Another said, "The human girl." Then came the roar. Victory. Rage. Freedom. The moon shook again, but this time, not from fear, from hope. Back at the crater edge, Reyes laid Elira down. Nyla ran to check her. Vex covered the escape path. Elira's eyes opened slowly. The stars were back in the sky. She smiled and said one word, "Home." The stars were quiet again, where the Zarkari war cruiser had once hovered, glowing, threatening, ready to destroy. Now there was only empty sky and falling wreckage. The moon was no longer a prison, no longer a place of chains, screams, and silence. Now it was something new. A symbol. Elira sat on a broken stone wall near the southern ridge. Her body was wrapped in a gray thermal cloak, and a healing patch covered her side. Her eyes stared up at the stars, no longer with fear but with wonder. She had never planned to be a hero. She had just wanted to live. But now, she had become a spark. Behind her, the other survivors moved like quiet ghosts. Some picked through the rubble for supplies. Others helped the injured. Children played near the fire, using broken helmets as toys. A tall, insectoid alien hummed softly, telling stories to a group of younglings, stories about the girl who made Earth send ghosts. The survivors now called her something new, not just Elira. They called her the Signal, because her pain had triggered it, and Earth had answered. Above them, cloaked in orbit, Earth's top-secret ship. The Revenant Ghost watched everything. It was invisible to radar, quiet as a whisper, deadly as a blade. Inside, high-ranking officials, intelligence directors, and Project Revenant handlers sat around a holographic table, their faces masked behind digital shields. Footage of Elira's. Torture played silently on one screen. Footage of her leading the revolt played on another. Then came the final image. The war cruiser, broken in two, falling in flames. No one spoke for a moment. Finally, an older voice spoke. She was never meant to be part of this war. Another answered, but she finished it better than we ever did. The council sent the order: declassify, transmit, broadcast. Across the galaxy, screens lit up, military stations, pirate outposts, royal palaces, underground bunkers, trading hubs. They all received the same message. You tortured one of ours. You thought we were weak. You forgot what humans do when you hurt family. We don't start wars, but we end them. Then came the raw footage, uncut, unfiltered. Aliens saw Elira chained, bloodied, silent, then saw the sky burn. They watched 3 revenants drop like fire from orbit. They saw Elira, half dead, rise and lead an army of prisoners. And finally, they watched her stand atop the ruins with a weapon in hand, fire in her eyes. In the outer regions of the Zilari Empire, an admiral paused mid-speech as the footage appeared on her screen. She stared in silence. Then she turned to her officers. Cancel the invasion drills near Earth space. But General, cancel. In a floating casino on the edge of the Vezir zone, a group of bounty hunters watched the footage. One turned pale. That girl. She was on my list. Another slapped him on the back. She's on everyone's list now, but for a different reason. On a desert world, a young alien boy sat by a fire with his grandmother. He pointed at the sky and whispered, "That's where the humans live?" The old woman nodded. "And if someone hurts us?" the boy asked. She smiled and said, "Then the humans come." Back on the moon, Elira limped into a half-standing control room where Reyes, Nyla, and Vex were waiting. The soldiers looked different now, less like weapons, more like family. Reyes stood up. "They want you back on Earth. Celebration, awards. Big public moment." Elira looked down. "I didn't do this for a medal." "I know," Reyes said. "That's why you deserve it." Nyla added, "Your voice changed the galaxy. You gave hope to everyone who thought humans wouldn't come." Vex, always calm, showed her a screen. "These are new messages from nearby colonies. 10 of them just declared Earth as a safe ally. 3 are requesting protection treaties. 2 asked if Earth trains more of you." Elira blinked. "More of me?" Vex smirked. "Apparently some believe you're Earth's ultimate weapon." She chuckled weakly. "I was just a messenger." "You still are," Nyla said. "But now the message is different." That night, Elira stood before the survivors. Hundreds of former prisoners now free. She held no weapon, no armor, just her voice. "I was chained, alone. I thought I would die in the dark. But Earth heard me, and they came." She paused, voice shaking. "They didn't come to start a war. They came to finish one. And they came not because I was strong, but because I was human." She looked at the faces, scared, hopeful, tired. "And if they can come for me, they can come for all of you." The crowd stood silent. Then slowly someone clapped. Another followed, then the rest, until the broken moon echoed with applause, cheers, and chants. The next morning, Elira left the moon aboard the Revenant Ghost. As the ship rose through the dust, she looked down one last time. She didn't see ruins. She saw a spark, a place where hope returned to a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant. Epilogue 2. Weeks later, in a golden hall on Earth, Elira stood before the United Planetary Council. She wore a white robe and no shoes. Her choice. They asked her what message she wanted to send to the galaxy now. She leaned into the mic and simply said, "We don't forget our people." The room went silent. Then the council stood, every member rising, even the alien ones, even the ones who once doubted Earth. They stood for her, not as a soldier, not as a symbol, but as a girl who proved what humanity really is. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but the most loyal.